Hi, I'm Norm Scott. I spent 35 years in the New York City school system as a teacher, mostly at elementary school. I retired 8 years ago. I've been doing a newspaper for teachers for about 14 years, and it's now a blog called Education Notes. I want to start with, you were mentioning that Chicago gave the nation Arnie Duncan, and of course New York gave you Randy Weingarten. So, I sat through 10 years of Randy Weingarten delegate assemblies, and this is like a delegate assembly in steroids, 3 days of it. So, you get to see what we saw for so many years. Just to give you a little background of the kinds of groups, what the state of the resistance in New York. It's not great, but there is a glimmer. About a year and a half ago, there were basically two caucuses that were sort of in opposition were seriously in opposition in a sense, and very smallish and without a lot of impact. The Independent Community of Educators is one group, and the other group is Teachers for a Just Contract. We worked with them in the union elections for a couple of sessions, 2004, 2007, and 2010. But there are a couple other groups, a group called NICOR, the New Collective of Radical Educators. They were focused more on social justice teaching. And there's another group, sort of an offspring of that, called Teachers Unite, which was run by an executive director who used to be in NICOR. Teachers Unite was a little more interested in union and became sort of a bridge between Teachers for a Just Contract and ICE and the NICOR people. NICOR people were focused on testing issues and things like that. We in ICE and TJC were focused on the impact of closing schools left, as you all know, teachers without jobs. In New York they were called ATRs, absentee teacher reserves, because they were functioning as subs. The difference between New York and the rest of the nation is that they just can't fire them. In a big sellout contract in 2005, we did get that part. They just can't fire them. There is a protection of tenure that does exist, but it's created a political problem for both the DOE and the union because, look at all these people. They can't get a job. Let's just, they should have the Chicago plan. Get rid of them in a year, and that's been held on. If the union gives that one up, it's going to be, Katie bar the door. So what happened was, because of the ATR crisis, we call it a crisis, a lot of them started rallying. There was a big rally held, and out of that became sort of led to a group that some of us started meeting. Some of the NICOR people who were interested in testing started meeting with us. Out of that outgrowth, because of the charter schools and the closing schools, became a new type of sort of people from all the different groups sort of hanging out a bit, and we called it, eventually, about a little over a year ago, we called that the Grassroots Education Movement, or GEM. There was our banner. What happened was, as we had some forums on the ATRs and the rubber rooms, the teacher jail kind of situation, but the charter school crisis really started heating up roughly last March. A year ago, March. And so just as the school year ended, we got an emergency call from teachers in Harlem who Eva Moskowitz, who's probably, I don't know if you know who she is, she was a former city councilwoman who now runs 4 to 6 charters in New York, gets paid $375,000, and is the single most aggressive charter school person we have in New York. Even all the other charter school people hate her. And so they literally walked into this PS 123 and the last day of school, and they started removing teachers' stuff from their rooms from 123, and we got a call. We went up for a rally up there. We brought our banner, and we became a sort of a force in that area. The teachers barred the door, actually physically barred the door. Next day, politicians started coming down, so it sort of gave us got our feet wet about a year ago, just literally a year ago. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, we can't be there, but Gloria will be there. Monday at 4:30, there's another hearing at 123 for Harlem Success Academy demands more and more space. They are just monsters that just eat schools up from inside. And now I'm touching on the issue that's really important in New York, is this co-location situation. It's not just you have to deal with a charter. You have to deal with a charter that's like a cancer in your own building. So you just can imagine the most obvious inequalities exist in many, many schools in New York City, and the teachers in those schools are outraged. You just couldn't imagine that. We got a call. GEM is, as I say, in existence as a named organization for maybe 14 months. Last May or June or so, I got an email from someone. She says, "Oh my God, I found you on the web." we have the same situation in our school. We have a group. It's called CAPE, the Concerned Advocates for Public Education. So we connected up with them, and they had this a billionaire charter school in their building called PAVE. And there was like literally, if you could say, open warfare going on in that building. Well, these CAPE people were amazing. The GEM people met with them for the first time last August, and we have had a tremendous bond with them. They have tremendous leadership. They've organized parents and teachers together. They're incredibly unified. I would say it's one of the best organizations I've met in any school, and that sort of, you want to thank the charter school movement for creating that, but that's what happened. We put on a forum with them in Brooklyn this year. We work very closely together, but you still have in New York these scattered groups. I did want to say something about the UFT elections that took place just at the time in January through May. Just as we were, as ICE and TJC was sort of getting ready to do things, as you know, Randy Weingarten left and Michael Mulgrew took her place, and a lot of people in the city said, "Oh wow, we got new leadership," and they don't get that there's a caucus that controls the whole thing. Mulgrew was actually a teacher supposedly, whereas Randy taught for 6 months and was a lawyer, and so Mulgrew did really win. He went out to schools and was aggressive, and he looked good on paper, and we tried to tell people it is the same, and it wasn't. It turned out to be the same as Randy. So in December, the school closing crisis hit hard and heavy. 19 schools were announced to be closing, and Jem ran around to as many. Just like we met with the core people in LA last summer and people from other cities, and that was tremendous that we all met with each other, and we started really saying, hey, what's CORE doing? Let's at least try and do some of those things. And so we started going to the closing school hearings and taping them and putting them up, made contacts in various places. And that's basically, so what happened was that those of us who were involved in the union election, we had a choice almost at that point. Do we focus on the closing school charter invasions, or do we get involved in this union election? We know we can't really do very well considering that unity machine which you guys see operating out here. You see them at every microphone. They do exactly the same thing. They track every single opposition critical person in New York City schools. They're not Maryland students. They are incredibly capable of keeping control of a union. There's no better operation, no better machine that knows how to do that. So we have to deal with that all the time. And so we put more of our energy, I believe, into the closing school, charter school situation, and sort of let the elections go. And we only got 9% of the vote. We call ourselves the proud 9% dissenters. But there is some resistance that's brewing in certain schools, and our job, we haven't really, I think, been that successful at this point yet, is to figure out who's where and how to get them active and how to organize them. We've been using 3 words. We learned, educate, organize, mobilize. And we feel each thing builds on the other. You cannot mobilize unless you've organized, and you cannot organize unless you've educated. You've got to really give people the information they need to understand why they can organize. Instead of just saying, oh, rah, 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 run out, we are trying to get people to understand the charter school issues and what the thing is and now we're starting a study group on the UFT AFT in GEM that's going to be trying to understand what are these issues and how do we deal with it.